Hey guys, KingBar06 here. Today I am back with the not highly requested video, but the video that maybe some of you guys have been anticipating, because I said my next video would be Todoroki versus Bakugo. I'm not gonna be in the best of moods, I guess you could say, simply because I did record this entire video the day before on Monday, the 30th. However, it got claimed, it got claimed, so I decided to just remake the video without using any of the clips and just using screenshots. Kind of similar to what Swakage does, where he uses screenshots from the anime or scans from the manga. Simply, hopefully, so then when I upload this video, and if you guys are seeing this, it's not claimed. So we're just going to get straight into the video. This is Todoroki versus Bakugo. Instead of what I did when I recorded the first time, I'm going to just explain right now, at least in my opinion, Todoroki beats Bakugo. And I'm going to kind of talk about their abilities and what they can do, so that way you guys understand why I believe so. And you guys can understand the full range, the full scope of what both of them can do as of the end of Season 3, because in Season 4, they haven't done anything. So let's just get straight to the analysis. So the first thing I'm going to be talking about here is Bakugo's stun grenade ability, which is he uses on the final exam with Midoriya, and this acts like a regular stun grenade. It stuns the opponent. It blinds them and it keeps them still for a brief moment. For All Might only worked for a few seconds. On a weaker opponent, it would probably have a better effect, and it would just work a lot better. But that's what it did to All Might, and this is a All Might that's 60 times weaker due to him passing on his quirk, and also the injury he got from One For All, and also he had weights on that it added half his body weight. So just keep that in mind. If it were an All Might at full power, it probably would have no real effect. Anyway, let's get into. Let me explain this stun grenade a little bit and what Bakugo could do. So at the start of the fight, oh, by the way, just to be clear, we're going to go with end of Season 3. We're going to go with what knowledge they have now. We're not going to assume that neither of them have knowledge of each other or anything like that. We're going to go with what knowledge they have at the end of Season 3. So they both have knowledge of each other's abilities. So now let me explain what he can do with stun grenade at the start of the match. Bakugo could instantly just charge at him, make Todoroki try to throw a punch or grab him, change his trajectory with his explosions, which I'll show off screenshots of that later and explain a little bit more. But Bakugo can go in the air with explosions, feint Todoroki, then potentially hit him with a stun grenade, keep him still. If we're doing with hero gear, then he can just shoot off his gauntlet. Without hero gear, he can use those explosions, but there is a risk because it does hurt his body, and he just can't use it long range. Because Bakugo did explain this to All Might, that there's just a risk to his body if he makes explosions as big as what he does with the gauntlet. And speaking of that, I might as well just go into the gauntlet now. That'll be the next category. Okay, so here are Bakugo. This is Bakugo launching his gauntlet as Midoriya. That's what the screenshot is. And essentially what it does is it blows a hole through in the building, well, on the wall of the building. That's kind of its area of effect, because Deku did dodge it. Also during this fight, during Midoriya and Bakugo's final clash, Midoriya used his right arm to blow open a few floors up, so Uraraka would have some ammo to use her quirk against Ida and then win the combat training. And he used his other arm to tank Bakugo's explosion, like not his gauntlet explosion, because after he used the original one, All Might told him he wasn't allowed to use the second one, simply because it's a bad thing for a villain or a hero to just blow up the stronghold. So He didn't use his gauntlet, he uses just regular explosions, and Midoriya was just able to tank that without using his quirk to shield it. He just used his other arm. He only used the quirk in his right arm, because until full cowling, Deku only uses his quirk in one part of his body, whatever part needs it at the time, or parts. So his fingers, his entire arm, his entire leg, both his legs, like whatever it happens to be. So that's the kind of damage that Bakugo can do with his explosions, and also it allows him to fight at long range if we're talking about a fight where they both get their hero gear, even though Todoroki's hero gear doesn't benefit him in battle, doesn't give him any abilities he has without them. So just keep that in mind. Here's a screenshot to briefly explain that Bakugo can use his explosions to make himself move faster during the fight with Midoriya. I talked about changing his trajectory. So what he did is he charged at Midoriya midair. Then what he did is he used an explosion to change his trajectory and launch himself upward. And his explosion doubled as a smoke screen. And then he hit him from behind. Yairozu mentions that in order to do this, he has to have great knowledge. He has to understand physics, and he has to have great control of his quirk in order to pull off a move like that. And here, this is during the the physical test where Aizawa says he's going to expel whoever gets last place. Spoiler alert: he doesn't actually expel anyone, but Bakugo here is using his quirk to just move a lot faster than normal. So that's just a brief explanation that in a fight, Bakugo can use his speed, use his explosion to increase his speed, and therefore, when you increase your speed, you increase the momentum. If you increase the momentum, Bakugo can just do more damage with via hand-to-hand combat, because there's more momentum and there's more force. So that's something to keep in mind during a hand-to-hand fight. This is another example of him using his explosions to change his trajectory in mid-air during combat. Essentially, he charges at Todoroki with his explosion. He's in the air, Todoroki's about to grab him, and then Bakugo uses his trajectory to change the direction he's going to avoid Todoroki and then grab him. Todoroki did counter him regardless of this, but this is just to show the versatility of how he can use his quirk. It's not just for damage, but he can use it for movement-based actions, and also the more he sweats, the more he can use his quirk, because the way his quirk works is he secretes nitroglycerin and then he makes it blow up. So this is just a brief another example of his ability to move, and I'm going to actually show him flying with it. Well, not necessarily flying, but he launches above the robot during the test. Not during the test, but during the Swords Festival, he uses his explosions to just go over the bot, the level 0 robot. So he's able to go really high in the air just using his quirk. And this is Bakugo just saying himself that in a one-on-one fight, he can't beat Todoroki. Like he saw, and this is just seeing Todoroki's eyes, just his eyes alone. He's saying that he can't beat him. Now there is one more move that is worth mentioning for Bakugo. One more move that he shows in the anime. There's two more. One's called AP Shot. I don't have the screenshot of it, but essentially AP Shot, instead of shooting big explosions, he creates a small hole with one hand and does a concentrated blast, and that blast was capable of just creating a straight hole through the concrete that almost fell on All Might's head. So it's a more potent attack, and if it were to go through an actual human in the show, it would likely kill them. So that's worth mentioning. And then his other move, called Hollister Impact, okay, so essentially Hollister Impact is where Bakugo uses speed, power, and rotation to create a really big explosion along with using his quirk. That is the same move that he used in order to knock Todoroki out of bounds and win the sports festival and get first place. I do want to mention that that I wouldn't say that that that's a proper reason for saying Bakugo could beat Todoroki in a one-on-one encounter, simply because one, Todoroki was emotional after the Midoriya fight and he was doubting himself, so therefore he wasn't fully focused on the fight. That's one factor. Also, he was only using one part of his quirk. People tend to say he's using half his power, but I'd say if you're not fully focused on the fight, you can't be using all your power. You can't be using all your you're not using all your brain power. So I would say he wasn't even fighting at 50% at that point. And Bakugo still had some difficulty countering Todoroki. In general, Todoroki was using his quirk more, less with anger, more with control. Like, he was angry when he fought Sero, and he just casually froze him, and a lot of the stadium made a lot of them cold. So I would say that even though he was a little more composed against Bakugo, since he was doubting himself, and since he had all these different emotions about his quirk and his past and all that, since that was all in his mind during the fight, I wouldn't really scale that. Plus, again, he didn't even use his fire at all. The two times he was going to, he had thoughts of Endeavor, his father, and he just simply chose not to use it. So that's just the last of me explaining Bakugo's abilities. Those are all the moves that he uses in the show as of the end of season 3. Because, like I said, either of them didn't really do anything in season 4. So Todoroki's quirk is called half cold, half hot. At least that's how President Mike talks about it when he's first introduced to the show. So his left side allows him to heat things up. His right side allows him to cool things down. If he uses his right side too much, that side will get frostbite, or it'll get cold and it'll slow him down. However, he can use his left side to counter that and just thaw him out and completely counteract that. I'm assuming with his right side, a similar thing can happen. His left side can get too hot, and then he can likely use his right side to cool him down because it's ice. So that would make logical sense. And that's just a brief description of his quirk. So when he's first introduced in the combat training, he casually freezes literally the entire building. He freezes both teammates in place. He doesn't harm the building whatsoever because because in the combat training, they're taught to try to keep their stronghold intact, because in a real life situation, it would be bad to just randomly destroy the building. It's not a smart move. So Todoroki could have likely done more damage if he chose, one, not to hold back, not to hold himself back, and he could have just destroyed the building with his ice. In theory, if he froze the entire building, ice is pretty easy to break. So he froze it to a point where he can get the device, and he can win the combat training exercise instantly. And his other teammate told him where the people were, but he could have more or less just done the entire thing by himself. Even if he didn't know where they were, if he froze them in place, it wouldn't matter. So that's just a showcase of his power. In this instance, this is the attack against the USJ, and Todoroki simply uses his ice to freeze a bunch of villains and interrogate them, because that's another application of his ice. So he can just freeze people in place, either just freeze their feet, freeze their entire body, like he did to Sero, or against this villain, he basically froze entire body. And because of that, if he just leaves them frozen like that, they would get hypothermia and die. So Todoroki's quirk is lethal. It's just in the slow way. And with this fire, he can also roast them. For most of the series, until he fights Midoriya, he doesn't use his fire, though, because he's rebelling against Endeavor, his father, for reasons that are in the show. This isn't about the show, this is about the fight, so let's just focus on that for now. So yeah, he can use that. I know I haven't talked about what he would do in the fight. I'll talk about that more when I finish showcasing, well, not showcasing, talking about all of his different abilities. So here I'm going to just show the last few things I'm going to talk about what he did during the sports festival, and also what he did against Stain. I don't have the screenshot for the Stain fight, but I'll briefly explain what happened there. So in this specific screenshot, this is the explosion that happened. Aizawa explained that essentially what Todoroki did is he thoroughly cooled the air with his ice. Well, he didn't directly say with his ice, but he said the air was thoroughly cooled and then it was rapidly expanded because it was heated up. So, in other words, Todoroki can create huge explosions, arguably larger than Bakugo's. His explosions are superior. Just looking at this alone, and taking the fact that Cemento's the cement hero dude, one of the teachers, they used cement walls, and then Midnight used her fragrance to try to stop the fight, but even then he still made this large explosion. So arguably, without that in the way, this explosion could have been a lot larger, and it could have potentially blown up the stadium. Maybe not blow up the stadium, but it would have done more without the restriction. And then the next thing I want to talk about is during the fight between Sero and Todoroki. Todoroki just casually freezes Sero and ends the fight instantly. And he was just pissed off at his father. So he just casually did that. There was no hard feelings towards Sero. He was just mad. So even though Sero used his tape, Todoroki just froze everything, including the tape, and ended the fight while restricted by said tape. And he broke the tape because, again, ice is just pretty easy to break, especially for him. And then and then there's the Bakugo fight. So during the Bakugo fight, he used his ice, and Bakugo just blew it up a little bit. But the thing is, Todoroki's ice still overwhelmed Bakugo, and it took a few seconds for Bakugo to tunnel through with his explosions. So that right there shows that Todoroki's ice, or at least Todoroki's ice part of the quirk, his ice moves faster than Bakugo can react to. So his ice is faster naturally than Bakugo's reaction time. Because if it weren't, then that wouldn't have worked on Bakugo. So his ice is just that fast, and since that's half his quirk, his fire, when used, should be most likely at the same speed. That could be skeptical, but it should be able to move just as fast, if not faster, especially concerning its fire versus Bakugo. So that's just going over all the screenshots that I have. And then in terms of the Stain fight, he can use his fire to keep his enemies at bay. He used the fire to prevent Stain from taking his blood. And actually, during the Stain fight, when Stain tried to take Todoroki's blood, he never once did. He was able to take Midoriya's. Midoriya is a close range fighter, but Todoroki used his fire to keep him back and prevent him from getting taken it all. And just keep in mind, many pro heroes were either seriously injured to the point where they couldn't recover, or they were killed by Stain. But Todoroki was able to just prevent Stain from doing anything to him. I will keep in mind that Deku did tell him about how his quirk works, so there is that. However, still, I don't think Todoroki would allow himself to get cut or licked, regardless of the matter, because that's just bad. That's just common sense for fighting. So now let me explain what I think would actually happen in the fight. I already explained that Bakugo can use his stun grenade to briefly freeze Todoroki in place, assuming Todoroki doesn't just put an ice wall between them. Since Todoroki had a chance to watch Bakugo, he knows about the stun grenade, since all the classmates had the ability to watch everyone. So, and Deku and Bakugo were the last ones. So there's no reason why Todoroki couldn't. So there is that. So that means, yeah, Todoroki could simply put a big ice wall between him and Bakugo at the beginning of this fight, and that means Bakugo's stun grenade not working, and Bakugo would have to tunnel through. Either he would have to tunnel through and it would take him some time, or Bakugo would have to use one of his gauntlets, if we're talking about a fight with Hero Gear. And also, without Hero Gear, you guys know Bakugo would be limited because he doesn't have that range. He can use AP. He should be able to use AP shot without his gear. He didn't use the gauntlet specifically to do it, so I don't see why not. But it probably would hurt it. It could potentially hurt his money if he did without his Hero Gear. So for now, we're going to talk about his Hero Gear, and then I'll talk about why without the Hero Gear, Bakugo has less of a chance against Todoroki. So there's the gauntlet that can potentially instantly blow a hole in the ice, or AP shot but AP shot makes a smaller hole, so Bakugo couldn't really do anything with that. So if Todoroki puts up a small wall of ice, that will give him time to relax. That will also give him time to switch to his fire if he needs to. Also, I think there's one thing I forgot to show off. Oh yeah, so I'm going to show it off here, but Todoroki can use his ice to, kind of, ski. I guess it's like ski, or what's it called? Surfing or skate. Yeah, ice skating. He can ice skate on his own ice, so that allows him to move. He can also use his ice generally for protection. He can use his fire for protection as well. So there is that going for him. Like I said before, Todoroki can create a really big explosion. And if this is just a one-on-one fight, no holds barred, there's no restrictions for the fight. Which reminds me, keep in fact that during the sports festival fight, there are rules. There is an out of bounds rule. Todoroki wasn't knocked out during the fight. He was out of bounds. That's how he won. So I do want that to be clear. Bakugo won because of that rule. So Todoroki could have potentially won with his ice alone if that rule weren't in place, and it was just whoever got knocked out first lost. So because of that, I think that Todoroki wins, so he can put up the wall of ice to do that. And in fact, that's kind of what he did against Bakugo during the sports festival instantly, and that froze Bakugo for a few moments. I will say that Bakugo is superior in the air. Todoroki doesn't really fight in the air, and Bakugo can just simply change his trajectory. Todoroki knows this, and I believe at the end of Season 3, Todoroki would be able to anticipate that Bakugo would change his trajectory if he's about to get attacked, so Todoroki can simply fake an attack, get Bakugo to change his trajectory, and then counter him. Also, Todoroki can use his ice directly on Bakugo to slow him down. So if he is able to touch Bakugo, which he was during the sports festival, he can slow him down that way. He can also use his fire to keep Bakugo at bay. And without Bakugo's gauntlets, he can't attack. He can't attack mid to long range. So just keep that in mind. Also, realistically, in the fight, I doubt Bakugo's going to be able to get more than 2 of his gauntlet shots off, because it does take time for him to get enough sweat for them to be ready. And I would think Todoroki would end the fight before he has a chance to even use a third. And honestly, if they're not ready at the start of the fight, if the 2 gauntlets aren't ready at the start of the fight, I highly doubt that Todoroki would, knowing what the gauntlets can do, he would allow him to use them. Also, another thing is that Todoroki can his ice has a larger area of effect than Bakugo's gauntlet. Bakugo's gauntlet blew up a wall in the building. Todoroki's ice just froze the entire thing. Bakugo took out part of a wall of one specific floor. Todoroki took out the entire building. And arguably, Todoroki, if he used both parts of his quirk, he can freeze the building and either break it or use his fire to just melt it away. If his ice allows him to, he would be able to do a lot more damage to the building. So I'd say Todoroki's just, his quirk is overall more powerful. It might not be as versatile in the air as Bakugo's quirk, but he can keep people back. He can make ice walls. He can move with the ice and just keep Bakugo moving. Even though if Bakugo sweats, he can create more explosions. However, there is a limit because quirks are physical abilities that people have. So there is a limit. And if Todoroki uses his ice too much without using his fire, all he has to do is thaw himself out, and he can keep going with the ice. I'm not saying Todoroki would only use ice in the fight. He could use fire to just prevent Bakugo from really doing anything. Todoroki could use his fire to create a barrier between him and Bakugo by just using fire around him, and then force Bakugo to essentially stay in the air. That is an option. Like I said, Todoroki can also freeze Bakugo in place while he's there is a delay between using his fire and using his ice, and he even mentions this during the hero licensing exam. Todoroki can't instantly do that. It does slow down his reaction time. So there's that. Bakugo, however, I don't think Bakugo has anything in his arsenal that would force Todoroki to just switch back and forth. Todoroki could use his ice to detain him, or he can start with his fire and keep him at bay. Todoroki's quirk, like I said, it just does more damage. I don't see how Todoroki would be able to. Not Todoroki. I don't see how Bakugo would have anything to just blatantly counter Todoroki's quirk. And also, Todoroki is smarter than Bakugo, I would say, given everything that's gone on in the series. He had a strategy against Midoriya instantly. He had a strategy against Aizawa instantly. Bakugo didn't really have much of a strategy. He just went all in on All Might. He came up with one, but that strategy sucked. It didn't work out. Todoroki's strategy was better against Aizawa, even though Momo was the one who pushed it up. Then Todoroki is let's see. There's one other feat I wanted to mention about Todoroki's intelligence that I might have mentioned in the first make of this video, but I don't remember it now. So hopefully it's clear to you guys why I think Todoroki wins. If you guys want to either debate me on my Discord, and maybe we can have a debate video, whoever disagrees on why Bakugo wins or loses, or Todoroki wins or loses, or if you guys want to collab with me on any other anime related videos, let me know. And for now, I'll see you guys later. Happy New Year, and peace out.